Hello, and welcome to today's replay of the Best of Kscope 21 series. Today's session is EPM Reporting for the 21st Century, and my name is Opal Alapat. In case you missed the news, Interrel is now Argano Interrel, and our mission is the same, to leave the world a smarter place than we found it. In addition, Argano Interrel is a 5-time EPM and Analytics Oracle Partner of the Year award winner. We've had a long history in EPM and analytics. And Argano Interrel is proud to share that we have one of the highest net promoter scores in the industry. The net promoter score is a measure of how likely a customer is to recommend a brand, product, or service to a friend or colleague. On average, system integrators have an NPS of 24%, and global system integrators have an NPS of only 9%. Therefore, Argano Interrel score is world class, and we work hard for customer satisfaction. And back to the program. We're going to start by taking a trip down memory lane. Let's review some notable world events that have directly or indirectly influenced EPM reporting in the last couple of decades to get a better understanding of how we got to where we are today. First, in 1998, Google stepped into the world. From then on, the concept of data mining, big data, and searchable data all became commodities to the personal computer user. It became all about the data, and that data started to grow in ways we couldn't imagine. This graphic was created just 3 years ago by a group called Visual Capitalist. To prove this point of the proliferation of data, take a look at their stats. In just 10 years, we've increased the amount of data in the world tenfold. And that measurement is measured in ZB, which is called zettabytes. If you've never heard of a zettabyte before, it's 1 sextillion bytes, which is 10 to the 21st power of bytes. In 2001, the Enron scandal happened. Company executives, through a technique called mark to market, conned the world by giving the illusion of high profits. This, combined with Enron using special purpose entities as hiding sites for its troubled assets, led to a collapse, and Enron shares plummeted from a high of $90 per share to only $1 per share, also taking with them the 401k pensions of their employees. As a result, accounting standards were improved through the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002. Transparency became an important trait of reporting in addition to SOX compliance. The iPhone debuted in 2007, leading to a smartphone evolution. By 2015, 2 out of 3 people in the world owned a smartphone. Being constantly connected and having data at your fingertips eventually led to a shift in reporting mentality towards self-service and mobile reporting. Remember the global financial crisis of 2007 and 8, which then led to the Great Recession? Wall Street crashed due to a combination of the subprime mortgage debacle and more corporate fraud. This was followed by an international banking crisis. This global financial crisis was one of the worst economic disasters since the Great Depression in the 1920s. This led to even more required transparency and reporting. And back to Google. In 2012, Google let loose 16,000 processors in the largest neural network in the world at the time. Presented with 10 million digital images from YouTube videos, this iteration of machine learning taught itself how to recognize cats. Fast forward to current times, and we are really starting to benefit from this technology advancement in EPM. Machine learning, artificial intelligence, and deep learning have led to an explosion of computer intelligence that Oracle has already started injecting into EPM cloud technology, with slivers of it in narrative reporting, which I'll talk about later in this presentation. We are on the precipice of something great. Why spend hours manually constructing reports, correlating data and events and variance commentary, and reconciling numbers when the technology could do it for you? In 2019, South Korea was the first country to adopt 5G on a large scale. As of April 2019, there were over 200 operators in 88 countries utilizing 5G. We are still in somewhat the beginning stages of it here in America, But 5G wireless promises data speeds of up to 10 gigabits per second, which means that you could download an entire 4K movie in just 8 seconds. With that much speed and data at your fingertips, reporting consumption is sure to grow at an unbelievably faster pace. More data, lightning speeds, better analytics, more capable mobile technology, and we want it all right now. It's coming. And finally, last year, we have the very hated global pandemic created by COVID-19, which has upended many businesses and industries around the world. From a reporting standpoint, it's clear that speed of strategy and communication of what's to come instead of what's already happened are the critical plays now. While those were some notable global events that helped shape reporting, let's now get a feel for what was happening with Oracle EPM reporting back in the 2000s. In the 2000s, EPM reporting was still being figured out, and Hyperion System 9 was the version of the decade. In addition, in 2007, Oracle announced their acquisition of Hyperion, which meant that product names changed significantly. The future of Hyperion was under evaluation, and luckily, with the backing of an international conglomerate software company. I spent some time gathering EPM reporting themes and trends from the presentations of past. First, there were a number of presentations on dashboards, although we all know the tool had been around for quite some time. I'm dating myself with this comment, but I certainly remember getting hands on training in Wired for OLAP back in the year 2000. In addition, fancy reporting features of the time included forward thinking concepts like traffic lighting, asymmetrical reporting, batch bursting, and dynamic report creation. After the first decade of 2000, EPM reporting unfortunately did not change an awful lot. Yes, advanced dashboarding was pushed to the BI and analytics side, which means that technology set abandoned EPM, but it came back. Excel Ad Hoc added a bunch of features, which nearly got all of the S-Base Excel add-in users converted to SmartView, but FR relatively stayed the same. Here are some throwbacks to blogs that you can still find today on the interwebs. Here we have, quote, combo charts, circa 2010. The visuals in FR today have improved a bit with the advanced charting engine released a few years ago, but I'm glad that we've advanced from combo charts to exciting new reporting visualizations like waterfall charts. And you can find both of these in current reporting tools for EPM. And here is, quote, ranking reports, also circa 2010 by the same anonymous blogger. Is it just me or are ranking reports still a challenge for EPM reporting? I actually just blogged about it earlier this year for narrative reporting. For those of you who've been developing in FR, you've definitely seen this error message. And we have screenshots of this error from both years ago on the left and modern times on the right. There are still Oracle support documents as of this year that explain how to get around this error message. From the beloved Hyperion guru, John Goodwin, we learned concepts on how to use SmartView beyond reporting and on-prem. Going all the way back to 2013, he talked about using SmartView to manage planning metadata. That was version 11.123, and I definitely remember how exciting that feature was at the time. Then in 2016, he discussed using SmartView to run calculation scripts with runtime prompts using substitution variables. I totally missed that one. Then in 2017, SmartView was iterated to allow the management of planning applications. So you could create an entire planning application directly in SmartView, and you could also delete it directly in SmartView. And finally, a guru in the planning space, Henry Vilmico, wrote a blog post in 2016 discussing the introduction of Financial Reporting Studio Web in on-prem EPM, which anyone in cloud EPM today would be thoroughly familiar with. Here were the trends gathered from past presentations from the second decade of 2000. Better interfaces, lots of export options, a trend towards self-service, right back to the source transactional system, adding tons more data, mobile access, and the hardware and software to support it all. However, in the past decade plus, we also lost some EPM reporting tools along the way. With the Hyperion acquisition, lack of customer usage, and or unwillingness to invest in future direction, some just didn't make the cut over time. So let's give a moment of silence to the fallen EPM reporting tools. Let's pour one out for those reporting tools gone out of support, but not forgotten. Wired for OLAP slash analyzer slash web analysis. Brio slash intelligence slash interactive reporting. I remember that one. Hyperion Development Dashboard Services, which I don't remember at all. SQR Production Reporting. The S-Base Excel add-in, which I know some of you still use today, although it's not supported. Disclosure Management on-prem. And believe it or not, as of this year, disclosure management on the cloud. It's in the narrative reporting suite, and they decided not to invest any more time in that tool, so they have removed it. Those that are on their way out, financial reporting. You will only find this tool in the on prem world with the studio desktop component. In the cloud world, we use the web component. But in general, FR will be sunsetting in this next decade in cloud EPM, probably in the next 2 or 3 years for sure. But in the on prem world, you have it for at least the next decade because it will be part of EPM 11.2. And after the past decade, we find ourselves in a very modern reporting world at last. Real EPM reporting for the 21st century. If you think back to EPM reporting over the past few years, we're in a pretty good place. Just to name a few, reporting concepts today show a trend in computer intelligence, connected reporting, reporting for every business requirement, and visualizations. So let's take a look at the main Oracle EPM reporting tools available today. SmartView is one of the most prolific and beloved EPM reporting tools. It directly integrates with Microsoft Office, namely Excel, and it comes with no additional cost with Oracle EPM. SmartView provides a wonderful balance between Oracle EPM technologies and Microsoft Office. You're able to use the native Office features while slicing and dicing your data. You can create beautiful reports, and you can do a lot more. Financial reporting, our go to EPM static reporting tool for multiple decades, was the bread and butter tool, and most importantly, free tool for many Hyperion customers. Today, it's still around, but as mentioned, it's on its way out. In cloud EPM, it will be replaced with a more modern technology, and gone will be the days of the FR clunky interface and outdated features. If you are already using cloud EPM, you've already seen a new technology come into your pods called reports, and that is going to be your replacement tool. As mentioned before, EPM lost dashboards to the analytics side of Oracle, then kind of gained them back. In Oracle Cloud EPM, dashboards are staples in planning cloud modules. With dashboards version 1.0, you can drill back to your data source, right back to the application, and see the direct impact of your data changes in a meaningful way. And they recently got a facelift. Last September, Oracle rolled out Dashboards version 2.0, which included better visualizations like heat maps and spark charts, and integration of Cloud EPM dashboards, both versions, with SmartView is on the roadmap. Although this version of dashboards is much simpler than what you can find in the Oracle Analytics stack, it is most certainly compelling, and it can provide aggregated visuals without any additional technology cost or requiring that your users have to leave Cloud EPM to go see them. And finally, we have the Cloud EPM Narrative Reporting Suite. Narrative reporting is a suite of EPM reporting technologies. Today, it includes with it 3 different reporting solutions. And notice that you don't see disclosure management on this slide anymore because it is officially sunset. So let's go through each of these 3 main reporting tools quickly. We have on the left-hand side, the tool with the same name as the suite, narrative reporting, also called report packages. This is a very different type of product than your normal static reporting technology. This has workflow. So you have tasks and due dates and messages. Basically, you can have the system poke people when they're behind on tasks for you. It has a cloud repository. It can use any Excel supported data source. So if you have a third party add in that maybe points to PeopleSoft or SAP or something else, if you can bring that data into Excel, you can bring that data directly into report packages and refresh it and have connections to it. This is also just so you're not, in case for people are not aware of what narrative reporting is, the business practice of narrative reporting is adding context to your data by combining your charts and your grids and your graphs with actual text. We'll talk about that more in a second. The second tool within the suite is called management reporting, and this is your FR replacement tool. This is meant for canned reporting. You can create highly formatted reports. It has a cloud repository. It can connect to cloud EPM, Essbase on any platform, and Fusion Cloud. And we often refer to this as reports, which, if you have a cloud EPM application product today, like planning or FCC, or maybe even tax reporting, you've already seen a light version of this product called Reports in that application pod, and it's there to replace FR. The third tool, which is kind of hidden behind the scenes, is a data storage container. It's actually a multidimensional engine. It's one single application with up to 5 models. If you have legacy EPRCS, you'd be able to customize this yourself, but most people are on the new licensing tiers of Cloud EPM. So it's really just a sample application at this point with sample information loaded to it, sample dimensionality loaded to it. And the reason why it's there is so that when you go to start up your narrative reporting pod, you can immediately start using the tool against a sample data source and see how it works. All right. So now let's go a little bit of a deeper dive into the two main products, narrative reporting and management reporting. So, management reporting in a nutshell, again, is going to be your new canned reporting tool. It's called Reports within the Cloud EPM application pods. It's called Management Reporting within the Narrative Reporting Suite. And if you look at it, it may not really look that different from what you see in FR. There's a header, which has possibly a logo in it. There's a body, and you can't see it on this example, but there could also be a footer. Now, the exact supported data sources are Oracle Cloud EPM. So, right now, there is no support to point to things like HFM or Hyperion Planning on prem, although there are discussions that that's coming. It can also support Oracle Fusion Cloud, and it can support Oracle Essbase. And that could be either a quote cloud OCI version of it or an on prem version of it. Now, this tool is the future of Oracle EPM static reporting. It is a competitor to FR. It does not have full parity with FR, and that is the reason why it hasn't fully replaced it yet. I would say it has near full parity, and there are some features that have its own incarnation of it within management reporting, meaning it still does the same business solution that you're looking for, but it may do it a little bit differently than FR did it. But when you go to build reports and MR, what I would say is it looks and feels very much like FR. It wouldn't take a huge learning curve for an FR developer to move over to management reporting. And there's even a direct migration path, by the way. If you want to start moving your stuff over to the narrative reporting suite, since that's the future direction, you can do that. The migration is fairly simple to do. This is also built upon a forward looking platform. So if you look in the bottom right hand corner, you'll see a number of chart options. Remember that FR has like 4 options, and that's like all it's ever been there. It hasn't really been improved throughout the years. But management reporting right out of the gate already had like 13 chart types, and that's been improved upon throughout the years. So you can do things like scatter plots and waterfall charts and things like that, and they continue to improve that over time. And then as far as Oracle's direction is mentioned, this is going to be the replacement tool for FR. And if you have one of those cloud EPM application pods, you've already seen, quote, reports come into that product. It is a lighter version of this fully robust management reporting tool, but it has a lot of the same features that management reporting has. Now let's talk about narrative reporting in a little bit more detail. So again, this is a tool within the suite also called narrative reporting, but this focuses on the business practice of narrative reporting, which allows you to marry your data with charts and grids with narration. And that helps you to tell your financial story. Now, this tool is a lot more robust. It's very different than FR and management reporting because it has a different purpose. This includes awesome features like workflow, being able to use any data source that you can get into Excel, including on prem Hyperion. And it also has version control. If any of you have ever been to my blog, this is what I blog the most about is a narrative reporting suite and specifically report packages, which is the main object in this particular tool. It has a full reporting lifecycle from definition to even distribution. It has phases, and you can choose to use them or not. There's 3 phases, all of them are optional. It has dynamic security and auditing. It has a cloud repository, and you can even email the final report package to your end users if they have a user ID in narrative reporting. Okay, so now that we've covered nearly every Oracle EPM reporting tool that exists today, let's get to some of the cool stuff. So, what is the art of the possible in the world of Oracle EPM reporting today? I'm going to show you a combination of screenshots and demos of features that you may or may not be aware of. My hope is that you'll learn something new from this session today that you can immediately take away and use to improve your reporting world tomorrow. First up, the canned reporting tools. So, financial reporting or reports or MR, depending on which one you have, which are essentially all slightly different versions of the same basic reporting tool. So, this is not new functionality. However, I am always surprised when I encounter customers who aren't aware of the power of some of these functions. So, did you know that you can have your users choose the report members that make up the columns or rows of a report? Essentially meaning that you can have them design parts of the report on the fly. What you would do is you would select a function called prompt or even a current POV function. Both exist in all of these tools, and either your rows or columns. And then it allows users to select members against those prompts or current point of view functions. And so it drives which members are in the rows or column headers, which means that they're essentially designing the report every time they run it. How great is that? Another super cool feature, and this one is in financial reporting and management reporting, is the ability to create a batch. Now, why would you want to do that? That sounds like technical, geeky stuff. Well, of course, some people have some very large reports, and it might be 100 different reports that make up, a book or a package. And so you might want to automate that to run at certain dates and times, or maybe even on a regular frequency. And so you can use the concept of a batch and a feature called bursting, which I'll talk about next. Batches are pretty easy to create. There's a wizard to help you out if you're using financial reporting. And what you can do is set up your batch in whichever report repository you're using. You can group together different report objects. And then if you're an FR, you can use the web scheduling tool or batch scripting to execute that batch or on a schedule. Within management reporting, there is a particular utility that's an administrative utility that you can use to kind of help automate this. So, as promised in the previous slide, let's talk about one use of batches, which is to combine it with a feature called bursting. The concept behind bursting is you take a single report and then you have the system run exact duplicates of the same report, but let's say for every specified member in a hierarchy. So I have a P&L statement that I run at the company level, but I want to run it by store. So bursting is a perfect example of something that you'd want to use for this. So, what you would do is with FR, you can burst along a single dimensions hierarchy. So, entity is a perfect example of this. And you would set it up when you set up a batch. And you can even have the users receive the resultant report objects through email as an attachment or through an online link. Through management reporting, it works a little bit differently. They don't have the full concept of batch bursting as it exists in FR today, but you can get around it by using maybe a book in addition to the types of native bursting that come in with books. But they plan to fully evolve this and improve it so it is more in line with FR's version of batch bursting. Now, this is one of the beloved features of FR. I know customers have been using this for years. Management reporting has a version of bursting, as I mentioned before. This was released in like the last year or two, and it was intended to provide some parity between FR and MR. Now you can batch and schedule bursting using the administration utility that I mentioned before called the file transfer utility. But I'll be honest, I believe that that may now have been fully replaced with EPM Automate or is in the process of being fully replaced with EPM Automate. So that's a standard utility across all of Cloud EPM. So here's a demo. I'm in narrative reporting in the web front end, which looks very much like the rest of Cloud EPM. And what I did was I have to go set up a bursting definition first, which basically sets up all the basic properties of it. I'll select my bursting objects. I'll choose which members I want to burst on. And because it's an MR, they iterated this a bit, and you can actually select multiple POV dimensions to burst on instead of just one. In this case, I chose the entity dimension. Then I can choose my distribution options. Do I want to email the reporting object out to users, just have a link to it, or run the objects into the cloud library and have them access them there? So there's multiple options, and you can actually stack them and do multiple different things. In this case, I've chosen to do an email. So I'm going to email people outside of narrative reporting. So these might be users that don't have a narrative reporting user ID, and it will send them, like I said, a link or an actual report. Then I set up the email details. I can use text functions to make it dynamic. Here's an example of the output email that says that the operation completed successfully. And then here's what the users would see. In this case, I chose to do attachments. And because there were only 5 instead of 500, I was able to just send an email with all the attachments. But if you had like 500 reports, then you might want to take a different path. And here's one of the PDF attachments, which shows you what the resultant report looks like. And because I also used a feature called Notes and Management Reporting, I could see the results of the notes directly on the PDF copy as well. Okay. Following along the lines of bursting, so Smart View actually has its own version of bursting, which some of you may or may not be aware of. And in this tool, it's called Cascade. This feature has also been around for years. However, to this day, I still meet customers that have no idea that this feature exists and that it would have saved them hours of reporting time if they had used it. So, just to demo it for you, this is going to be really quick. I'm going to run a cascade on the SmartView report, and it's going to be really simple. It's a very simple report if you look at this. So, it's going to run in a reasonable amount of time for this demo. I'm choosing the market dimensions regions as the target cascade hierarchy. And then if your Smart View options are set correctly, you can even keep things like the Smart View formatting, the Excel formatting, and even formulas in your resultant reports. So what I did was I first changed the header to make it a little bit more dynamic based on, the actual report that's being run and based on the market regions. And this will make sure that every report has the appropriate market in its title. Then I set up the market POV dimension as the one that I want to cascade against. And then I configured the cascade itself. And what I had it do was send the reports into a brand new workbook. So this is actually a brand new workbook that you're seeing. Although you could have picked the one that your original report was in, or you could have just done a completely separate workbook. You could even do one workbook per report if you want. And so in this case, there were, I think, 4 members under market. So it actually did all 5 reports because I did the parent as well. And you can see that it's all went into one single Excel workbook, and it has 5 tabs at the bottom, and it ran faster than I was able to talk about it. So management reporting has this really cool charts feature called split dual Y axis. And I have been talking about this for as long as it's been around because I think it's super awesome. And the concept behind split dual Y axis is that you have 2 Y axes on a chart. So imagine, for instance, that you want to see expenses correlated with headcount. And usually there is a direct correlation, which is why many people want to see it. However, how do you show them on the same chart? Because they have a different number range, right? You could have expenses that are counted in the millions of dollars, but headcount might only be in the hundreds of thousands. So if your number ranges don't match up, how do you put them in one chart? You have to basically create 2 charts. So enter the split dual y-axes, and you can now have a separate y-axis on the same chart, splitting the height of the chart into 2 different number ranges, so you can still see the correlation without having to create 2 distinct charts. And that's basically what I have done over here. So I have my expenses at the top, and I have my head count at the bottom. And you can even select, because it's all based on whatever grids that you've created already in reports. but you can select exactly which data points you want to be in the top axis and the bottom axis. And so that's what I've kind of done here. And here's the final result. And you can see that on the top grid, the number range is to the left, and I even have its own label for that to indicate that it's net income. And on the bottom range, I have a different number range to the right with its own label called headcount. And then you can see the correlation. Nice and easy. The next feature to discuss is groupings. So, for those of you who came from the FR world, groupings provides parity with the auto calculations feature in FR. It allows you to group your data components easily with only a little formatting in order to make it look sexy. So here's the demo. And by the way, you don't have to use groupings. It just kind of makes your life a little bit easier. So the first version of the report that you just saw was without any groupings. Let's say that I have this report, I have it split by segment and entities. If I didn't use groupings, then okay, fine. Then everything's just kind of stacked on top of each other and it's no big deal, right? Like this is totally fine and acceptable as a report. But groupings could make it look a little sexier. And you basically only have to set it up like one time and then it looks pretty good. So now I've gone in and I've reformatted the report in a specific way. I do recommend you look at Oracle's video on this because there's a couple of steps to it. And once I've set up that formatting, now I can group it and it will look a lot better when I go to run it. But just know that there are a couple of formatting elements here that are very important. You might need to hide certain columns and rows. You might need to create some extra formatting to separate, the totals from other sections. And so this is now what you see with all the formatting put in, which I had to do myself. But you can see there's a clear distinction between each section, which are the segments. And then you can also see within each section all the different regions and countries, and then also a total. So that's what groupings can provide is basically sexy formatting. Remember how I talked about computer intelligence taking over the world? I mean, making its way into cloud EPM. So here's a good example of it in the narrative reporting suite. MR has a feature that allows reports to display commentary based on conditions the report developer sets. So, for instance, if revenue is down this quarter compared to last quarter, then auto generate text commentary to indicate this. But that's actually not the cool part. The cool part was that Oracle then iterated that feature by adding computer intelligence on top of it. And not only will it display the text commentary when it's appropriate, but it will also create a report on the fly relating to that condition and linking it to the commentary, which is totally next level. So, this report that you're looking at right now, it's based on the commentary that was generated and it shows additional detail based on the condition. So I can drill in further without having to pre create what that report might be in advance and guessing if the user is going to want to look at it. Instead, narrative reporting figures out for you what report to create. And it's kind of hit or miss, to be honest. I mean, we're in the early stages here, but it auto generates this for you so that you're basically able to have a user click on that text, go see more detail without having to get the report developers involved. And hang on just a second. I see a question. Let me see if it's related. Oh, whoops. You know what? I can't actually see the question. Let me come back to that. So finally, let's talk about one of the most important traits of modern EPM reporting, and especially as Oracle envisions it, which is connected reporting. No longer do you have to reinvent the wheel every single time you want to report in a different reporting tool. You can create one report in Oracle Cloud EPM, and then you can recycle it across multiple reporting technologies. For instance, create an income statement in management reporting, so within the narrative reporting suite, export it to Excel as a visually stunning static report there, or export it in ad hoc format so you can start slicing and dicing and drilling within SmartView. Then take the same report and import it into narrative reporting's report packages. And I also know that there's more connected reporting with outside tools. At Kscope 21, they were talking about the integration of SmartView with LibreOffice and Adobe InDesign for people who might need to take their reports to the next level and use a different tool. It doesn't even have to be recycled within the Oracle ecosystem. And there's also additional features where I believe, and I don't know much about it yet because I didn't see a lot of it at Keyscope, but you could even create something maybe in SmartView and then push it to another reporting tool. So there's a lot about connected reporting that's happening in the Oracle EPM reporting space. So, in this very fast changing world with COVID-19 impacting businesses still, we need to take back our time. One report, multiple destinations, period. That's 21st century reporting. And with that, thank you for joining me on this fun journey today. If you like this webcast, take a look at our upcoming webcasts. We are continuing the Best of Kscope 21 series for a couple more weeks, and then we're going to get back to our regularly scheduled program. So you can register for any of these on our website. So, what questions can I answer for you? Please put them in the Q&A window. And I know I have a couple of questions. For whatever reason, I'm having a little bit trouble seeing them. So let me just try a couple of things real quick. See if I can get those to show up. Okay, here we go. Is management, let's see, the management reporting demo you were showing is contained within the narrative reporting only, correct? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I have clicked past that. So I'm not really sure which demo you're referring to, but I will tell you on the slide, if it said management reporting, if you saw that in the slide title, which was at the top or the bottom, then it was definitely within management reporting, which is one of the tools within narrative reporting. As we develop the auto generate feature, it might be set up so that MR produces more than just one report to drill on. Sorry, I'm not sure I understand the question. Maybe you could clarify what you mean. It just looks like a comment, not really a question. So I'm not sure what you meant by that. Do you know if and when reports can be consumed via Smart View? So I'm assuming that you mean like you can export it to an ad hoc ready query in Smart View. Is that what you mean? Maybe if you can reply and let me know. Oh, okay. By the way, that other thing was just a comment. Let me see. Okay. So the answer was yes. Okay. So yes, in management reporting, you're able to take an MR report and then export it to ad hoc query ready so that you can just immediately start drilling and pivoting and slicing and dicing within SmartView. I do not believe that this is ready yet in reports, but I can go verify. I have not had a chance to look up all the new features that were released this month within reports, and it's possible that it's either there. If it's not there, it's already on the way. I know that there are a couple of customers who've been asking for the export to Excel feature, for instance. In addition, other things like that. Like I want an ad hoc query ready consumable object that I can just take to SmartView and start drilling into. So I totally understand. Okay. Any more questions? So really good questions. We'll give you all 30 seconds to ask any last minute questions that you might want to ask. Okay, I don't see any more questions. So thank you all so much for joining us today. We hope to see you on a future webcast or the Best of 21 Keyscope series or even another webcast. So enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you so much.